Switching gears over to the offensive side of things. A couple of guys have texted me and asked me what kind of drills that they want to do, okay, or what kind of stuff that they could recommend, or coach, what do you think I could be doing? How could I get some swings in? I want to make sure I'm effective, and I want to make sure my hand path is good. All those things, and we can get to the hand path stuff a little bit later on. I'm just going to talk about a couple of drills. If you're an upperclassman, you know I'm not that big of a drill guy, but there are a couple of things I think can help us get going. Very similarly, how we go through our walkthroughs regularly. On the defensive side, it's almost an offensive progression that I like to try and take advantage of also. So obviously the first thing to do would be to, make sure you get some dry hacks in, making sure you're balanced in a good spot, making sure your head is established to your connection. We talked a lot about that last week. Before we get into anything, I think you guys need to understand, and the guys who've been with me for a while have heard this spiel before. I'm just going to put down a home plate right here, okay? Get this other base out of the way so it's not confusing. I want to talk about a hitting diagonal real quick. Okay, I'm going to take 3 baseballs right here, all right? Diagonal. Hitting diagonal is, depending on your lefty or righty, where you want to end up on what type of ball you want to hit, okay? So there's a little bit of a slope here, so I apologize if the balls roll. So this ball right here is going to be the ball I want to hit out front, okay? If I'm in this spot, okay, this will be the ball that's down the middle, okay? And this is the ball that's on the outer third, okay? So the diagonal right there, all right? Now, that allows me to understand what pitch I need to hit in what spot, okay? So last week we talked about, our basic fundamentals of our setup, how to get comfortable there, our basic balance routine. So if I'm looking straight on and you're the pitcher in this spot, this ball right here is the ball I'm going to make contact with out in front of my body, okay? And I'm not on the barrel there, okay? I want to make sure I'm in a good position to hit that ball. And you know what? For that ball, I'm probably going to be shortstop, 6-hole, third baseline, okay? That's where I'm going to be in that realm on the field, okay? This ball right here is the one that gives me options, okay? If I react early to it, probably going to get out and pull it, all right? If I react late to it, I can probably drive it through the 4-hole into right center, okay? Depending on where that ball is. But recognizing where that pitch is super important. And you can set that up on the tee and do that. You can work on that ball there. You can work on that ball there. Now, the last one is the ball on the outer third, okay? I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to tell you that you have to take that ball on the outer third and drive it towards the second baseman into right center every time. I understand that you can pull that pitch if you recognize it early. And what do I mean by that? Maybe it's a slow curve, and for some reason you're sitting on breaking ball because this guy's got a breaking ball. If you jump it, you could jump him and yank that ball up the middle, okay? It's probably going to be some topspin. It's probably going to barrel hook at that sense, but it's probably going to give you an opportunity to drive that ball back up the middle, okay? So this ball, that side of the field, okay? This is your options, gives you up the middle. This is the ball. You want to make sure you pull it. Okay, so those are all things where I want to make sure I end up, whatever I do on my other side, this is the ball I'm going to drive this up to the left, back up the middle, okay, extend, okay, ball I'm going to let travel a little bit, okay, and I'm going to try and drive that ball to right center. So establishing a line of consistency in where you want to hit each pitch, where it is dictated by the pitcher, and understanding what you're going to do and having a game plan if you're attacked in that motion. Now, if you guys ask Napes, very good college hitter, okay? Over 300 average, okay? Huge clutch season in 2019. I mean, he had 40-plus hits, bunch of RBIs, been a great hitter for his entire duration. He can probably tell you how many times on one hand, as a guy who hit pretty much 1, 2, or 3 in the order his entire career, how many times he was thrown inside. Not many times, okay, in college baseball. Why? Because a lot of pitchers can't establish the inside corner, okay? They don't like to pitch inside because they're going to get hit. They can get hit by, you can hit a guy and give him a free base, or you might miss over the middle and that guy's going to make you pay, especially if you're not throwing with conviction. And if you look at our own pitchers, they can probably tell you the same thing. And a lot of that has to do with the mental side, and we'll get to that at the back end of this conversation, okay? But you can almost sometimes, depending on your setup, almost eliminate that pitch on the inner third. And Napes is a guy who does get hit by a lot of pitches, so he can relate to some of that information. And if you look at our stat lines over the years, a lot of times you see a lot of hit by pitches, and that's because guys are up on the dish okay? Not being afraid to get hit by that pitch, taking that inner third away. And if a pitcher is not going to have the conviction, or the coach who's calling the pitches establishes that type of a trend where that guy's not coming into you, you can have an opportunity to actually do that, okay? All right, so understanding where the pitch is to make sure you're set up properly to, if the ball's thrown in that sense, and get through it. Mental checklist, okay? Before I get to the plate, because when I get to the plate, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to know anything. So many times, I bet you, when you struck out, you could probably realize what you did wrong. Oh man, I can tell you exactly what I'm thinking about in this sense when I struck out. But then, on a pitch that you probably drove in the gap for a double, you probably don't even remember anything. Okay, you don't even remember hearing anything, a cheer, or anything like that. It just happened. Okay, you're able to clear your mind and be able to relax and settle in. So before our at bat is going to start, before, okay, it's going to start in the dugout. It's going to start in BP. It's going to start in all those times where we're trying to gather information. Okay, so that when you get into the test, which is the exam, in that sense, the game, you're going to be able to produce results in that spot. So if you're hitting down in the order, and the first 8 guys came up, and he started everyone off with a breaking ball, you probably should expect starting them off with a breaking ball. And you know what? We're not going to have the conviction to understand you're the type of a hitter where a lot of us are not going to hit breaking balls early in the count unless we're looking for it. Okay? So, or we have the signs or something like that where we're able to tip. All right? So understanding what the pitcher has in his repertoire, where his comfort zone is, what he's going to throw you comfortably when he gets ahead in the count, and what his go-to pitch is going to be for him when he falls behind in the count. All right, so all those things are super important, and you need to understand them to put in your back pocket for some back pocket data so that you can recall when you step out, gather yourself, hey, I can expect this in this spot. All right, so I just want to talk, that was the talk of the approach, okay? I just want to do some tee stuff real quick. I know everyone pretty much has a tee at their house, and just because a lot of guys have asked about certain drills and things that they could do while we're in this spot right here, kind of getting ready to go. So now, when I set up on the tee, I want to make sure my ball is slightly in front of my left hip, or if I'm a lefty, the opposite side, my right hip. I want to make sure I can get my hands out in front. Okay, I don't want to jam myself or choke myself in this sense whatsoever. I always like to put the ball up in a 4-seam fastball grip. The reason being, I want to be able to backspin the ball so I have a visual that I could look at. Okay, not so much to swing down and through the ball. I want to make sure I'm keeping my bat head in the zone long enough, okay, to make sure I'm driving the ball consistently back through the middle. Okay, so if I'm in this spot, I want to make sure I'm set up. Now, if you want to get loose and take your swings, that's fine, okay? If you're going to go right to drills, in a sense, to set up, I want to progress. My first progression is always going to be wide with no stride. I'm trying to work my hands to the baseball, get my hands in my barrel to the baseball. So if I'm going hands, wide, no stride, I want to make sure I'm here, and I'm trying to backspin everything up the middle. I am not releasing my backside. I also want to feel that push off my right instep, which is going to take my right knee down when I let it release. So I'm going to be, again, in this spot, establish the connection, wide, no stride, staying up the middle of the field, okay? Now, if I'm going to progress to the next spot on that, okay, I'm going to make sure that when I start to release, I'm still not going to release my backside, all right? You could do a step back drill, okay? To establish here, make sure you're in that spot, hands in this fence. If I'm not getting too wide, I'm not getting bowed, okay? I don't want to make sure I'm staying inside the baseball. So wide, no stride. My next thing is going to be able to, okay, start to engage that right side with my wide stance. So I'm going to be here, and now I'm going to start to get those laces to the pitcher. Okay, start to feel my right knee drive down. Okay, again, not much movement on my front side here. I'm not loading. I'm not striding. I'm grounded. I have a good base. Okay, but again, I'm in this position. Okay, I want to establish. Now I'm going to start again, like I just said, I'm going to let my right side go a little bit. Okay, staying up the middle in this spot. Getting my laces to the pitcher, feeling my instep to back knee to back hip drive through. Okay, and then when I'm all said and done in my progression, if after I do maybe a set of 10, maybe it's 2 sets of 5, whatever it may be, to get myself ready to swing, I'm going to allow everything to go forward at one time. I'm going to get my load stride in, and now I'm going to establish my swing. Okay, and I'm going to be nice and loose, allowing my hands to get through the zone. If you're a top hand, take it off. That's fine. If you're a two-handed guy, that's great. Okay, some guys mix it up in between when the drill work just for the purpose of keeping the bat on the ball longer. Okay, so again, one more. Getting myself through the zone. Instep to back knee to back hip, hands through the ball. Okay, so I like to do a lot of hand stuff. I like to do, and then feeling the release, and then when I let it go, I can establish that. All right, so you can do the same thing on pitches that are away. Okay, so if I let the plate come up a little bit, all right, I'm going to drive the ball on the right side again, wide, no stride. Okay, but I need to make sure I'm in a good position. Again, my leg wants to go, but I'm not letting it. Okay, and you can do the same thing on an inside drill also. Okay, so pulling this one. Now this one, you're going to probably almost need to stay behind the tee to a degree to get it out in front off your front hip. Okay, so it's almost like you need to stand closer and behind the tee to try and create that. Again, I'm going to allow this to stay grounded and to pull the ball through because I want to get my back hit forward in that sense. Okay, so those are just a couple of different drills that you could use. I don't think there's much thought process that goes through that. However, it's more of a physical thing to get some confidence out of your physicality into what you're doing on the drill side. Okay, any questions about that stuff?
Coach, I have a question, but like when you
Sure,
finish
so go
explaining
ahead.
everything.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think we both know that I have a very like getting like moving my body in front, and
Mm-hmm.
I have a really hard time in the inside pitches because I really struggle with inside pitches. So, do you have any, like pointers for me to look into when I practice for that?
Absolutely. So, Saul, one of the things that you do, and I saw in the videos that you were posted, you drove the ball really well, and I'm really happy with your progression so far. And you've been a guy who's been in contact about a lot of things. So, to talk about that inner third pitch, now when you break the plate up into thirds, right down the middle, okay, is your one third, your outer third, and your inner third. Okay, all those different angles. So the drill I just showed you right there, having the ball, having the tee off of your front hip, standing behind. Now you're a guy that does this a lot. Okay, you stride across your body. Okay, and when you stride across your body, you dive into the ball. So now you're taking, again, think about that hitting diagonal. You're taking a pitch that should be on the inner third, and now that's completely jamming you. Okay, you're taking the pitch down the middle, and it's getting more towards the trademark than the barrel. All right, so and then that's a pitch on the outer third that you're going to be extremely behind, and you're going to be making contact with it off the end instead of being on the barrel. All right, so a couple of drills. The one we just showed you, standing behind the tee. Okay, trying to work on your stride being soft and straight and not coming across. The other thing, Saul, is you can leave your stride closed like that, which is fine. But I think one of the things that you need to work on is maybe back off the plate a little bit, or stay slightly open. Because now when you go to stride, because that's your natural movement, your body's telling you to stride. You like to stride towards the plate. So if you're going to stride towards the plate, that's fine. So think about you weren't on the team in 2019 with Zach, but Zach would stay slightly open and then he would come closed. Okay, so if you stride straight, if you stay open and now you're going to stride back over to the middle when you get yourself set up, it's the same setup as where you were, except you can't stay closed and then start and go closed more. Like you want to make sure that your front instep, your back instep is even with your front toe. Okay, so if you need to clear that hip a little bit by doing that, so you can stay open here and then stride closed. Now you're back to 50-50 or slightly open and not so closed off as you were. Because sometimes you can get into that spot yourself where you're completely closed off on your front side. Okay. If there's no questions on that, last piece I want to talk about while we have, I think we got like 5 minutes left. I just want to talk a little bit about the mental side of things. All right. I'm not throwing this into the equation because a lot of us hear about a lot of the mental stuff that's going on with everyone in the world and how it's affecting people's anxieties and COVID and all this other stuff. And everyone's frustrated. Everyone's mad at each other. And there's no harmony or anything right in the world right now at all. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the baseball side of it and mental preparation. And I'm a person, and I don't reveal it much, but I get real worked up about, performing. I don't want to fail. Okay. And I don't want to, I hate losing games. It's been one of the toughest things for me. to lose games. If we can be a smidge better, and that smidge better gets us one more win a year, I mean, the guys with upperclassmen are on this call. Everyone knows that one win better is a championship in 2018. Okay, so I think that this is a time for you to start understanding the mental side of this game a little bit, where you need to start putting some onus on your prep in that sense. And what restricted him was the mental side of it. Like the game sped up on him. And I'm sure we can, I don't mean to call him out on this, but the game speeds up for me. And I noticed that I want to be in control. So when I pitch, I have control over the game in that sense. When I'm not pitching, I don't have control over anything unless maybe I'm catching. So in your guys' sense, I want you to understand that you need to take control of your emotions, because your emotions are what actually is the thing that's going to get you up, and it's going to get you high and ready to go. And it's also going to be the driver, which manifests that fear, manifests the negativity. Bad things are going to happen. And we're seeing it right now because of COVID, right? We're in that sense where the woe is me on everything. Everyone's upset about everything. And I get it. I understand. But make this time positive for you. Now, you need to start with some, positive self-talk. I don't mean to sound like cliches and stuff, but, if you start to develop the ability to, I have permission to succeed in this sense. Like, I'm okay. I can do this. So like I said on Friday, your talent got you through the door. Your talent got you to this sense. Now, figure it out on how to get better. Because if you're a guy say you're a 200 hitter, okay, your offense is what you struggle. Let's see if we can be a 250 guy. If you're a 280 guy, let's see if we can get to 310, 315, 320. And all those things are going to be about developing some level of consistency to what you need to do, but taking some pride in some prep. And I'm going to have that same talk with the pitchers, because I think that really affects them negatively a lot, where they get that anxiety. Or we see guys that perform to a certain degree, and then they want to, no, I don't want to go back out there. I'm good. I threw my inning. How you feel? Well, I'm good, because I thought I was only going to throw that one inning. Now you go out there for the second inning. But you see it a lot in like all-star games, right? The guy goes one inning, throws lights out. The second inning, he goes back out there, gets his stuff lit up. All right. So I'm sure you've played with everyone in that sense, or a guy who's took you to a certain point of the game that feels now he did his job. I want to turn it over to the next guy now. And you can't handle that pressure. But same thing in the infield, right? When the ball hits you, listen, I've been in that spot. I don't want the ball hit to me. If I already made an error or two in the game, I don't want to screw this up for this guy. So you start to think about the mental prep side of that, and how to handle some of that anxiety and the limitations that come into play. Like, listen, really just wanted to speak a little bit about the mental side of it. I'll try and do that at the back end of every discussion that we have, because when we're practicing, we don't get an opportunity to do this much, right? We don't get an opportunity to talk. We don't get an opportunity to diagram much. We don't get to have that baseball one-on-one conversation. And when we do, it's usually in a class. Really wants you to take the onus upon yourself to start thinking through some of that stuff, because not only for baseball, but also for life down the road, because it's going to throw you a lot of curveballs in a sense. And if you can handle some of the ups and downs and be able to run with that, because in baseball, we're going to fail more times than we succeed. So it sets you up for life, because not everything's a cakewalk. Not everything's easy. And this last year and a half for me has been a life-changing event. So from a year ago today, when almost we had our conversation where the season was getting canceled and we didn't know what was going to happen. And now a year later, we're still in this mode. So anyway, that's my digression on that, on the mental side of things. Anybody have any questions on anything? Like something that when I was in school, when I was in high school and college, and after that, I really did not do a good job of it, even when I was coaching at other levels. Okay. So I think it's something that I've done a better job since 2018 in my own personal side. And I think it's something that you guys need to really actually focus on, because you can prepare this to be successful. We do a ton of physical stuff. We spent almost an hour doing physical type of training to prepare ourselves to play. We don't do anything to prepare ourselves to play mentally for the most part. Okay. So maybe this is an opportunity to start training upstairs to try to create a little bit of an advantage, because guess what? You may not have this, but everyone has one of these, and you can create something to play that game within a game inside itself, because you can trick your body into thinking that you're doing something physical when it's really not. So that's one of the things I think everyone could work on outside of the baseball side, but how it can actually relate to you to have a positive impact and a positive effect on things.